For us to find and simplify the first three terms in this expansion in ascending powers of x. So starting with the smallest, which is just going to be a constant. We can quote the binomial expansion formula. So for us, we've got a is 2, b is going to be a third kx, and n is going to be 6. So we're going to get 2 to the power of 6 plus 6c1 times 2 to the power of 5 times a third kx plus 6c2, just reduce the power here, increase the next power, and that is our first three terms. We just need to simplify it. So you can put these things in your calculator. 2 to the power 6 is 64. 6c1 is actually 6. Times that by 2 to the 5 and divide by 3, you actually get 64 again. So 64kx. And then 6c2. Do you know what? It's worth being aware of doing this by hand. So I'm going to show you. 6c2 is 6 factorial over 2 factorial, 4 factorial. That's me using this thing here. And we're going to get 6 times 5 times 4 factorial over 2 times 4 factorial. And I've done that because then these just cancel. And I'm left with 15. So it can be it's quite fun actually working out these binomial coefficients. It then times that by 2 to the 4 and a third squared, which is going to be 1 over 9. And this actually turns out to be 80 over 3. Sorry, I'm just saving a bit of time here. I'm not just going to show you me putting it into my calculator. K squared, x squared. And that is our final answer. All right, we're then told in this expansion, the constant term is equal to the coefficient of x squared. Determine the exact value of k given that it's a positive. So I've got 3 minus 4x, and I'm going to be timesing it by, do you know what? I'm going to take the first three terms. It's kind of hinted at that in part 1. And let's think about how we would get a constant term. The only way it's going to come about is if we do 3 times 64. Which is 192. And then for the x squared term, we could do 3 times 80 over 3, k squared x squared. Now I'm only interested in the coefficients, so I'm going to ignore the x squared bit. So we're going to get 80k squared. Or I could get it from here. Minus 4x times 64kx. That would give me minus 256. 4 times 64 is 256k. That is my, again, just my coefficient. So remember, we're told that these are equal. So therefore, 192 must equal 80k squared minus 256. This is not a question where we're asked to show detailed reasoning. Sorry, 60k there. So we can, you can actually find a common factor for all these terms, but it turns out it won't factorize. You're going to have to use the quadratic formula. And really in this sort of exam scenario, you just want to get through this onto the next question and use the quadratic formula. So it's going to be 80 minus 256 minus 192. So 8 plus 2 root 31 over 5. Or 8 minus 2 root 31 over 5. But remember, we're told that k was positive, so that one's absolutely fine. But that one's negative. So reject since less than 0. That is going to be our final answer. Well done.